And now we finally get to the final episode of The Stand. And just so you guys know what it's like to read a 1,000-page book from cover to cover like I did when I was reading this book, when I got to this point, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm this far in the book, I might as well finish it off. I mean, I want to know exactly how this all ends. I want to know how this will all conclude. And even then, when I finally closed it up, I will admit that I had a very satisfying ending. An ending that I really did not expect. However, it's still an ending whatsoever that I did enjoy. And in this episode, it's called The Stand Part 4, otherwise known as The Stand. So we're all leading up to this point. So for an episode to be called The Stand in a TV show called The Stand, you're just thinking to yourself, oh, everything is coming together. It's all coming down to this point. We have Stu, Larry, Glenn, and Ralph. Ralph was the fourth character that I could not remember in my last review. And also Kojak goes along with them because you can't leave Kojak behind. But they're on a long journey all the way to Las Vegas to make their stand against Randall Flagg. And you just kind of think to yourself, how do they make this stand? What is the stand? How are they going to stand up to something that is so evil? And another thing that I also like is how this episode first begins. I may spoil a little bit, but there is one character that made a deal with Randall Flagg, did something for him, and as soon as Randall Flagg was done with him, he ends up killing him. I mean, that's what happens when you make a deal with the devil. The devil will just throw you away as if you were absolutely nothing. I mean, what did you expect? But also, there is another scene where Nadine finally meets up with Randall Flagg, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing for me. Because she gets to the spot that she's been dreaming about this whole entire time, and they finally get a little bit intimate, but then she starts rejecting him, tries to push him away. I mean, what did she expect was going to happen? I mean, this is exactly what she wanted from the very beginning, and now she's in this position. Now she is guarding herself. I don't get it. But the thing is, this is Randall Flagg. He's not gonna take no for an answer, as he says to her, "It's far too late, much too late." In a very weird visual effects scene, I'll admit, because he changes his face into a couple of monsters. So in this episode, they focus a little bit more on Las Vegas and how the bad guys are running their whole show, and quite frankly, it's not looking good. Because you could see bits and pieces in this episode where it's all starting to fall apart. But that's the thing about evil, is that if you have a lot of evil in one place, eventually it's all just going to turn on each other and it's all going to collapse. And another thing that this episode does really well was a scene where Randall Flagg has a little bit of a moment. After a certain incident happens in this episode, he falls to the ground and you can see the look of worry on his face. You can tell that things are not looking good for him. But then he says, No, I'm doing okay. I'm staying right here. In other words, he is being complete denial. He's in denial of his whole situation. And so when the bad guy is starting to panic, that's when you know things are starting to look good. And with our four main characters getting closer to Las Vegas, and granted their long walk is for most of the episode, it's just them walking through the countryside of America. But you still get a little bit excited on what's going to happen when they reach Las Vegas, because this is something that they have to do. This is what God wants them to do. And when they finally get there, well, let's just say I'm not going to spoil any of that for you. It may not be the ending that you would expect. That's all I'm going to say. It's not the ending that you're going to expect. But that's the great thing about The Stand, is that the story comes up with a lot of stuff that you do not expect. I mean, when I first started reading the story, I thought it was a story that was about a pandemic and how are they going to stop it? How are they going to stop this flu virus from killing everybody? That ended in the very beginning, and now we're going to small societies trying to rebuild everything, but we also have problems with another group of people that is in another city not so far away from you. So that's what I really got to say about the final episode of The Stand. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I will tell you guys that you will feel satisfied for the ending that the show gives you. So that was The Stand Part 4, and I will say it is legendary. So for the entire show of The Stand as a whole, all put together, I would say, yeah, it's good. It's really good. There are so many moments in this show that I would just like to rewatch over and over again. The acting is great. The makeup is fantastic. The characters, I followed them all the way through. And there are several moments where I just felt I just felt stuck in the moment because, granted, I did forget about a couple of stuff that happened just a few episodes earlier. But that's a great thing about being in the moment, being intrigued of what you are watching. And The Stand does that like a champ. So I will say the entire show of The Stand is legendary. So guys, The Stand Part 4, aka The Stand. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? If I missed anything, comment them down below, and I'll see you in the next video.